the earth, not a proof for it being round. As Sheikh Mukbil rahimahullah said, that there is a difference between the scholars as to what the shape of the earth is. It's not really a matter of creed as such, such that we should have debates and arguments over it. That which the Quran did come with is the motion of the sun, on account of which there is day and night, and the stationary earth. Right? These are very clear. The motion of the sun, very explicit, very clear. The stationary earth, also very clear, but not as apparent as the issue of the sun. But it's also clearly in the ayat. So these two issues, they do become issues of like creed. And for that reason, we reject the solar system model and the whole astronomy, the astronomers, because that astronomy that we have been given, the modern astronomy, it has its roots really in the astrologers, in astrology. And the reason why we have the solar system is that it was deemed to be more accurate and a better way for the astrologers to make their predictions. At least that's what they thought, right? So they shifted from the geocentric model that everybody used to be, or most people used to be upon, and they came to the heliocentric model. We are told it's because of science and discovery, but really it was astrological in nature, the shift. But as far as we Muslims are concerned, the Quran is explicit that the sun is in motion, and through it is the phenomenon of the night and the day. This is a matter of Iman and Kufr. And likewise, the earth being stationary, that's also very clear, but to many people it might be obscure. So on that issue, like Sheikh bin Baz said, rahimahullah, that we wouldn't really hastily speak about the kufr of a person who rejects it. There are many shubuhat which are floating around, so maybe we have to be a bit careful with that. But the issue of the sun is very clear. Beyond that, how big the earth is, what shape is the earth, this is, it's not possible for us to really determine that. No one has left the earth, even though they make you believe that, but no one, because the earth is a closed system. You can't escape the earth. You can't escape the earth. These people themselves, they say it. Some of these NASA people, that the earth is a closed system. We can't leave it, right? So nobody's really seen what the shape of the earth is. And so yes, there are many scholars say that it's round, and there are many scholars also who actually say that it's a level plane. And so people present arguments either way to support one or the other. But this is not a matter that we're going to fight with each other over and say that you are misguided and you are misguided. And, so I don't think this is like an issue. As for the individual arguments that can be used, well, there are arguments which are used either way. And you can look at the individual arguments, the merits of each argument, and see whether, does it hold? Does it have any merit? There are many experiments which have been done. So I'm not saying either way, but there are strong evidences to show that all flights of planes are actually level in nature. They have to be level. All military applications of missiles and planes, they're all on the basis of a stationary, non-rotational plane. There's no dispute about that. You can go and actually find all of the papers and the equations and the models that are used for trajectories and flights and whatever. And they all assume for those calculations that the earth is a flat, is like a plain, non-rotating surface, right? So this is not even a point of dispute. This is established and known. right? Likewise, you can have these when they transmit wireless frequencies, which are only single direction, right? So there's one where it's fired from mainland Europe all the way into Cyprus, and it's 200-300 kilometers, and it can only be straight. Like these waves don't curve or anything; it can only be straight, right? So there are many examples that people would bring to support one argument over one side over the other side, right? So you can look at each of these arguments and look at the merits. Is this true? Is this valid? Is this whatever? But and you can hold whatever view you want. But like I said, this is not an issue to be fighting and disputing over. You can hold the view that you want. There are many scholars who actually, Al-Qurtubi is one of them, and there are many other scholars going back into history. They do hold that the ayat in the Quran indicate a flat earth, and there are other scholars who say that no, indicates a round earth, right? So I wouldn't make this. The key thing is the two things is that the sun is in motion and the earth is stationary. These two are not under any dispute, right? And don't be coward or dismayed by the fact that people start laughing at you and saying, "Oh, well, it's established now. We know that this is, beyond a doubt." No, no, you haven't. We know the history. The reason why uh, 20th century physics was altered is because you couldn't prove the Earth was moving in the 19th century. That's why Einstein was brought about to invent relativity, to hide the fact that the Earth isn't actually moving. And you couldn't prove, despite all those experiments, that the Earth actually is moving. So they had to come to a compromise and say, well, everything is relative, right? It's like a compromise, to avoid people discovering that, hang on, the Earth actually is not moving, right? And so you see statements from these people, from these famous astronomers, George Ellis and many others, clearly stating that actually no, we haven't proven. Either way is actually equally valid. You can say the Earth is stationary, all the mathematics, physics will work just as well. You can say actually the moon is the center of everything else moves around it, and the mathematics will still work. You can say the sun is the center, all the planets move around it, and that will still work. The mathematics will still work. And what you want to choose as the starting point, it's purely philosophical, right? And it's not science which is determined, because we can't really tell what's stationary, what's actually moving, right? That's why they had to invent relativity, to hide the fact that all the experiments in the 19th century couldn't show that the Earth has any detectable motion, or at least motion that is equal to the 33 miles per second or whatever it is that it's supposed to be moving, right? And we don't feel that movement at all when it's moving, swerving. We don't feel that movement at all. Everything's like you see a lake and it's totally still, you know. So our senses, we believe what our senses tell us. We can tell that we're not actually moving, right? So that's all I'll say on this topic. I know this topic comes up very often, and people argue and debate about this, but this is not a matter of belief. And the key thing is focus on the issue of the sun and the earth being stationary and the sun being in motion. These are issues of creed. These are issues of iman and kufr. That's all I can say on this question. And I know that people they like to take clips and put it online, but this I'm giving this like a very summary, short answer to a local audience. So sometimes like clips are not suitable to be put online because that requires a more detailed treatment, because the bigger audience, needs more detailed like evidences and proofs of what's being said. But here among us as believers, we understand these things and it's very clear to us, and it's sufficient for us. And so that's what I say generally. Sometimes when people put clips from lectures online, they should seek permission um, for the suitability, because things can be said in a localized audience that's suitable for the audience, whether it's this topic, whether it's the issue of jihad or slavery or whatever it might be. So I think it's from etiquette that people ask can we take this clip and put it online, or do you have a longer clip, or is there something else, more detail or whatever? People should use a bit of wisdom in that manner, because we have to give convincing evidences for what we say to the right audience. Just something to bear in mind to people who do that, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum.